Morning to all. Today's lecture is reading comprehension. The first lecture on this topic. Let us see the objectives of this lesson. Develop the ability to understand the content of the given text. The text is given. The student unseen text is given. Unseen passage will be given. The student has to understand the content of the text. So this lecture is aimed at developing such understanding to read and understand the unseen passage. The second objective is to infer information and meanings from the given text. So when you understand the passage, you should be able to draw a conclusion about the given passage, infer information, then the meanings of difficult words used in the passage. All these things have to be comprehended after reading the passage. Third objective is learn to use complete sentences. So after question, few questions are set on the passage. 5 to 6 questions are set on the passage at the end of the passage. After reading the passage, the student has to give the complete answers. Learn to comprehend the given passage at different levels. One should be able to understand the given passage at different levels. That is, should be able to write answer to short questions, longer questions, writing meanings, filling in the blanks, MCQs, multiple choice questions, answering multiple choice questions, matching. So a student has to answer all these sorts of questions. Then learn to give correct answers. So this is the proof of understanding. If you give the correct answers to the given questions, it means that you have understood the passage fully. These are the objectives of this lesson. These are the questions related to passage, first passage. I will read the passage for you. You have to listen and write answers to these questions. So the passage is long, so the passage is not given here. So just listen. I read and explain the passage. After listening to the passage, answer the questions. First question: about whom is the passage written? Second question: why does Nehru make the difference about being a Hindu and an Indian? Is there any difference really? Third question: what great lesson did this great man show us for life? Then mention some of the virtues of great internationalist. Fifth question: Nehru seems to suggest that his hero was the beloved champion and leader of the people of India, only before the partition of Pakistan and India. Do you agree with that? Explain. What did truth mean to this great man? Seventh question: give the meanings of the following words: memorial, immutable, essential, estrangement, spontaneous, discrimination, dominating, Himalayan. I read the passage and explain the passage. Just listen. Listen to the passage. People talk of memorials to him in statues of bronze or marble, are pillars, and thus they mock him and belie his message. What tribute shall we pay to him that we should have appreciated? He has shown us the way to live and the way to die, and if we have not understood that lesson, it would be better that we raised no memorial to him, for the only fit memorial is to follow reverently in the path he showed us and to do our duty in life and in death. People erect statues and people worship, adore particular person, but they forget the ideology, principles, message given by that particular person. This is happening in India. The people are very uh, eager and they come forward enthusiastically to erect statues of Mahatma Gandhi, but they do not follow the ideology, the principles, the simplicity, and the direction given by him, the message given by him in the public and personal life. He was a Hindu and an Indian, the greatest in many generations, and he was proud of being a Hindu and an Indian. To him, India was dear because she had represented throughout the ages certain immutable truths. But though he was intensely religious and came to be called the father of the nation which he had liberated, yet no narrow religious or national bonds confined his spirit. And so he became the greatest internationalist, believing the essential unity of man and the underlying unity of all religions and the needs of humanity, and more easily devoting himself to the service of the poor, the distressed, the oppressed millions everywhere. So Mahatma Gandhi called himself an Indian at the same time Hindu, and he was proud of being an Indian at the same time a Hindu. But he believed in the equality of people, and he believed in humanity. He believed that service to the poor is very important. All these principles are not narrow-minded. They are cosmopolitan thinking. He is a cosmopolitan, and his thinking is very broad, and that has to be understood primarily about Mahatma Gandhi. Death brought more tributes than have been paid at the passing of any other human being in history. Perhaps what would have pleased him best was the spontaneous tributes that came from the people of Pakistan. On the morrow of the tragedy, all of us forgot for a while the bitterness that had crept in, the estrangement and the conflict of these past months. And Gandhiji stood out as beloved champion and leader of the people of India as it was before partition cut up this living nation. So when he was assassinated, all the people expressed their mourning, including in Pakistan, and all the people in India. And if people forgot their differences and their bitterness in expressing their grief and paying tribute to this great man. What was his great power over the mind and heart of the man due to? Even we realize that his dominating passion was truth. The truth led him to proclaim without ceasing that good ends can never be attained by evil methods, that the end itself is distorted if the method pursued is bad. The truth led him to confess publicly whenever he thought he had made a take Himalayan errors, he called some of his own mistakes that truth led him to fight evil and untruth wherever he found them, regardless of the consequences. The truth made the service of the poor and dispossessed and passions of his life. For where there is inequality and discrimination and suppression, there is injustice and evil and untruth. And thus he became the beloved of all those who have suffered social, political evils, great representative of humanity as it should be. Because of the truth in him, wherever he sat became a temple, where he trod was hallowed ground. Mahatma Gandhi's primary uh, objective is to serve people and to instill humanity among the masses. And he never discriminated on the basis of different factors. And he is a he is a person who was loved and adored by all equally. This is the passage. Now, let us write answers. Let us write answers to these questions. About whom is the passage written? Answer is um, the passage is written about Mahatma Gandhi. The passage is on Mahatma Gandhi. This is written by Jawaharlal Nehru. The second question, why does Nehru make the difference between being a Hindu and an Indian? Is there any difference really? Answer is a Hindu is one who believes in Hinduism. An Indian is a native or citizen of India. This is the inferential question. Next, third, what great lesson did this great man show us for life? Answer is he showed us the way to live and the way to die. So Mahatma Gandhi showed us how to live, how to die, the procedure of living, method of living, the principles of living, and dying dignified. So, fourth question, mention some of the virtues of the great internationalist. Answer is he loved all religions, all nations. He loved all religions and all nations. He believed in the essential unity of man. He devoted himself to the service of all men, more especially of the poor and the distressed everywhere. He always followed truth. So this is the answer. What did truth mean to this great man? He loved all religions and all nations. All religions are equal, and all nations are uh, like his own country. He believed in the essential unity of man. He believed in the humanism. He devoted himself to the service of all men, more especially of the poor and distressed everywhere. So, service of the poor people, distressed people, needy people is his top priority everywhere. He always followed. Fifth question, Nehru seems to suggest that his hero was the beloved champion and leader of the people of India only before the partition of Pakistan and India. Do you agree with that? Explain. Answer is Nehru suggests that Gandhiji was the beloved champion, leader of the people both of India and Pakistan. This is corroborated by the spontaneous tributes that his death brought from the people of Pakistan. When he died, next morning, uh, all the people, neighboring country, they expressed their grief sorrow, and mourning, just like the people did in India. So, uh, this is the uh, this is the stature of Mahatma Gandhi. Sixth question: what did truth mean to this great man? Truth meant a great deal to Gandhiji. His dominating passion was truth. So for him, truth is God. That is his dominating principle. So give meanings of the following. First word, memorial. Memorial means those which serve to keep in remembrance, monuments. Those which serve to keep in remembrance are monuments. That is memorial. Next, immutable, unchangeable. Next, essential means important in the highest degree. Next, estrangement, separation in feeling and sympathy. Next, spontaneous, of one's free will of human being. Discrimination, ability to see or make small differences. Dominating, having control or influence. Himalayan, very great in proportion. So this is the first passage, questions and meanings. Now come to second passage. First, read the questions. Why had people listen to the voice of Mahatma Gandhi? Why had people to take an interest in politics? What was the change brought about in objects of politics? What improvements were made for the common man? Explain sins of omission and commission of the administration. No longer the monopoly of the masses, but the property of the masses. So this is the second passage. Let us read the second passage. The voice had to be listened to not only on account of its form, but for the matter which it delivered. It gave a message to the country that it needed greatly. It brought to the common people a realization of their duty to concern themselves with their affairs. The common people were made to take an interest in the manner in which they were governed, the taxes they paid, in the return they got from those taxes. This interest in public affairs, politics, as you may call it, was to be the concern no longer of the highly educated few, but of the many, the poor, the propertyless, the working man in town and country. Politics was not to be the concern of a small aristocracy of intellect or property. Politics was to be no longer the monopoly of the classes, but the property of the masses. And with the change in the subject of politics, that voice brought about also a change in the objects of politics. Till then, politics had busied itself mainly with the machinery of government towards making its personal more and more native with proposals for a better distribution of political power, with protest against the sins of omission and of commission of the administration. This voice switched politics on to concern for the needs of the common people. The improvement of the lot of the poor was to be the main concern of politics and politicians. The improvement essentially of the lives of the people of the neglected villages was to be placed before governments and political organizations as the goal of all political endeavor. The raising of the standard of living of the people of the villages, the finding of subsidy occupation which would give the agriculture poor work for their enforced leisure during the off-season, and an addition to their exiguous income, the improvement of the housing of the poor, the sanitation of the villages, these were to be the objectives to be kept in view. In the towns, the slums and the cherries are were to receive special attention. There was especially a class of the poor for which last compassionate voice pleaded and protested. This was for the so-called depressed class and the outcasts of Hindu society. The denial of elementary human rights to this class of people considered the greatest blot on Hindu society and history. Raised itself a passionate protest against age-old wrongs of this class and forced those that listened to it to remove the most outrageous of them like untouchability. It caused a revolution in Hindu religious practice by having Hindu temples thrown open to these people. It made care of them religious duty of Hindus by renaming them Harijans. So this is the passage about politics and the preoccupation of the politicians is to serve the poor people, to understand their needs, and to go into the grassroots to provide livelihood to the people. The same, this is one aspect. Second aspect is that the lower caste people at the bottom of the pyramid in the society have to be connected with the mainstream, and their needs have to be addressed properly, and they have to be treated equally. Otherwise, a egalitarian society is not possible. So the how the politics should be run, and what are the concerns of politicians and politics, and how should the governance be done to the optimum in the society. All these things are discussed in this passage. Now let us read, answer the questions given here. First question: why had people to listen to the voice of Mahatma Gandhi? People had to listen to the voice of Mahatma Gandhi on account of its form and manner. The lecture is also given by, this write-up is also written by Mahatma. Because why should people listen to him? Because it got uh, form and matter. Second question, why had people to take interest in politics? People were made to become curious as to how they were governed and what they got from the taxes they paid. So they took interest in politics. So people are paying the tax. With the tax money, the government is governing the people. So people are interested how their money is being spent by the government. So they took an interest in politics. This is the answer to the second question. What was the change brought about in the objects of politics? Answer is politics was switched on to concern for the need of the common people. The improvement of the lot of the poor, especially of the lives of the people of the neglected villages, was the goal of politics. The goal of politics is improving the facilities and providing livelihood to the people living in rural India. And the second is addressing the problems of common man. These two are the governing principles of any political system. Fourth question, what improvements were made for the common man? Answer is the standard of living of people of the villages was raised, and subsidiary occupations for the agricultural poor during the off-season were found. Housing of the poor was improved. Age-old wrongs of the depressed class like untouchability were removed. These are all successes of independent India. The first is the living standard of the poor people was raised. Second, and work was provided, lively work was provided, wages were paid in the off season also by providing some meaningful work. The third is removing untouchability and addressing the problems of these people. Next, fifth question, explain. Sins of omission and commission of the administration. What is the meaning? Its meaning is things which ought to be done but omitted to be done. Serious blunders committed in administration. So, administration committed certain mistakes. These mistakes have to be corrected. Next, no longer the monopoly of the classes but the property of the masses. It means no longer in the exclusive hands of small aristocracy, but passed on to the hands of common men. So, the governance is no longer in the hands of a few people, aristocracy or kings, queens, kingdoms, and all these things. Now the democracy is in place, and democracy, all are equal stakeholders. Now come to the third passage. I read and explain the passage, just listen. The next ingredient is a very remarkable one, good temper. Love is not easily provoked. Nothing could be more striking than to find this here. We are inclined to look upon bad temper as a very harmless weakness. We speak of it as a mere infirmity of nature, a family failing, a matter of temperament, not a thing to take into very serious account in estimating a man's character. And yet, here, right in the heart of this analysis of love, it finds a place. And the Bible again and again returns to condemn it as one of the most destructive elements in human nature. The peculiarity of ill temper is that it is the vice of the virtuous. It is often the one blot on an otherwise noble character. You know men who are all but perfect and women who would be entirely perfect, but for an easily ruffled, quick-tempered or touchy disposition. This compatibility of ill temper with high moral character is one of the strongest and saddest problems of ethics. The truth is there are two great classes of sins, sins of the body and the sins of the disposition. The prodigal son may be taken as a type of the first, the elder brother of the second. Now, society has no doubt whatever as to which of these is the worse. Its brand falls without a challenge upon the prodigal. But are we right? We have no balance to weigh one another's sins, and coarser and finer are but human words. faults in the higher nature may be less venial than those in the lower, and to the eye of him who is love, a sin against love may seem 100 times more base. No form of vice, not worldliness, not greed of gold, not drunkenness itself, does more to unchristianize society than evil temper. For embittering life, for breaking up communities, destroying the most sacred relationships, for devastating homes, for withering up men and women, for taking the bloom of childhood, in short, for sheer gratuitous misery producing power, this influence stands alone. Jealousy, anger, pride, uncharity, cruelty, self righteousness, touchiness, doggedness, sullenness in varying proportions, these are the ingredients of all ill temper. These are the main characteristics of ill temper: jealousy, anger, pride, uncharity, cruelty, self righteousness, touchiness, doggedness, sullenness, different proportions. Judge of such sins of the disposition are not worth to live in and for others to live with than sins of the body. There is really no place in heaven for a disposition like this. A man with such a mood could only make heaven miserable for all the people in it. So, this is the passage about ill temper and the characteristics of ill temper, etc. Now, let us see the questions and answers. What is the popular notion about bad temper? The popular notion about bad temper is usually considered a very harmless weakness. People think that it is harmless. It is spoken of as a mere infirmity of nature, a defect in nature, human nature, family failing, that is the bad upbringing, a matter of temperament, a matter of mood, matter of mental disposition, framework of mind. Second, how is bad temper the vice of the virtuous? There are men and women who are all perfect except for bad temper disposition. Ill temper is often compatible with high moral character and is therefore referred to as the vice of the virtuous. There are two angles. Okay. One is virtuousness. The second is vice. So, good character is considered as a sign of virtuousness, and bad tempered is considered as a sign of vice. Next, which class of sins is worse, and why sin of the body, sin of the disposition? Sins of the disposition are worse than sins of the body. No bodily vice does more to unchristianize society than evil temper. There are bodily sins we commit with our body, and there are the sins we commit with our bad temper. So the sins we commit with this bad temper are more harmful to uh, any religion than the sins we commit bodily sins we commit. Okay. Which class of sins is worse? Right. This question is answered. Next. What is the popular notion about bad temper? The popular notion about bad temper is These questions are answered. Now mention some evils of bad temper. Bad temper can embitter life, break up communities, destroy the most sacred relationships, devastate homes, wither up men and women, and take the bloom of children. So can embitter life. It spoils life, break up communities, it breaks up relationships, destroy the most sacred relationships. The relationships among the people are destroyed by this bad temper. Devastate homes. Homes are destroyed, devastated. Wither up men and women. Men and women are withered up. They are they have become characterless because of bad temper. And take the bloom of the children. Children no more remain innocent because of this bad temper. Why, according to the author, will there be no place in heaven for bad-tempered folk? According to the author, there is no place in heaven for bad-tempered folk because they could only make heaven miserable for all the people in it. So there is no place for bad-tempered people in the heaven because they make heaven miserable with their presence. Next, find words from the passage which mean breaking up, ruining, scandalizing, soaring, easily or quickly offered, offended. Breaking up means destroying. Running means ruining means devastating, devastating. Scandalizing means withering. Uh, Spreading rumors about a person. Sowing means embittering. Soaring means embittering. Easily or quickly offended means touchy, very sensitive. These are the passages we discussed in this passage. Let us review or sum up. In the first place, we discussed the objectives. The objectives to develop understanding about the content of the given text and the ability to improve this ability among the students. Second, to infer information and meanings from the given text, to get information related to the passage and understanding the meanings of the words from the passage. Third, learn to use complete sentences, answering the questions in complete sentences is the third object. Learn to comprehend the given passage at different levels, understanding the passage at different levels. Students should be able to write answers to any sort of questions. Learn to give correct answers. Giving the correct answers is also one of the objectives of this passage. So these are the questions in the first from the first passage. This passage is written by Jawaharlal Nehru and Mahatma Gandhi. There are 7 questions in this passage. The second passage is also on Mahatma Gandhi, but this is related to governance, politics, and the goals of good governance and the preoccupations of good politics in healthy democracy. And there are 5 questions. The fifth question has 2 sub-questions. Passage 3 is about bad temper and the characteristics of bad temper, ill effects of bad temper are discussed here. Mainly, one sentence is jealousy, anger, pride, uncharity, cruelty, self-righteousness, touchiness, doggedness, sullenness. In varying proportions, these are the ingredients of all ill temper. These are all ingredients of bad temper. First is jealousy or envy, anger, pride. Pride means overconfident, arrogance, uncharity, not helping others, cruelty, not having kindness, self-righteousness, thinking that I am the right, I am the principal person, touchiness, sensitiveness, easily hurt by the other people, doggedness, very foolishly determined, foolishly sticking to certain things, and sullenness, not having pleasant nature is sullenness. This is the first lecture in reading comprehension. In the second lecture, we are going to uh, read some more passages, interesting passages. And after reading the passage, the students have to understand the content of the passage, the meanings of different words in the passage, and they should be able to write answers correctly to the point. So these are the different aims of this lesson. These, I hope you understood this lecture. We will discuss some more passages in the next lecture.